and welcome back to Simon's Pizzeria. Today we have a very, very special episode with former Ross County captain and current Eastleigh FC player Jack Baldwin. Jack, how are you?
Yeah, all good, thanks. All good. Yeah, just enjoying a bit of quieter time towards the end of the season.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it may be quieter, but for some, especially your old team, it's probably not so quiet and quite a stressful time. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But I just wanted to start, Jack, with the kind of early life for yourself and an early football career. And just if you could talk to me a little bit about getting into it, because you've got quite a unique path and you took quite a big jump as well.
Yeah, so obviously, like many young boys, I started playing probably when I was about 4 or 5, like just kicking the ball about. And then as I got kind of 6, 7, excuse that, I've got two kids, so every time I say 6 or 7, it bloody sends me sideways. But yeah, when I was about 6, my dad set up a team like for me and my friends like locally, and then I was playing with my friends for about probably 7 or 8 years. And then I moved south of the water to where I live. So I grew up in a place called Barking, just outside of East London. And then I played football from the age of 13 to 18. I played football south of the River Thames in Kent. Um, yeah, so I was playing at the age of 15. It was my first kind of experience of men's football. The social club that my dad kind of socialized down of a weekend and had a few beers with his friends. One of the guys played football on a um, like on a Sunday afternoon, and my dad said, "Oh, you should go over and basically get kicked about for for a little while just to kind of grow into the game and experience what like real football was like." So yeah, at the age of 15, I first started playing men's football. Had a season at Newham United alongside playing for Chatham Town. And then at the age of 17, I was playing non-league football for Faversham Town Ryman, in the Ryman South, I think it was at the time. Um, and had a full season at that level. And at the end of the season, I had a scout come up to me at one of the games from Hartlepool United. He kind of gave me a business card and said if I can basically arrange a trial for you to come up to Hartlepool, would you be interested? And at the time, I had just finished like college, and I was due to go to university in September. This was probably about April, so it was really like late on in the season. Um, yeah, I had no other route into the professional game, so it was kind of like a well, I've got nothing to lose type situation. So yeah, I went up to Hartlepool in July for a week's trial during pre-season, and yeah, the rest they say is history.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I think that's something that I wanted to ask a little bit about because, like you say, you've gone from the eighth tier and you've jumped up to the third tier of English football.
Yeah.
What's that like mentally? And as a teenager, especially, who were the kind of biggest icons and or influences in your career, especially from within a changing room? Because when it's coming to maybe a new place as well and a completely different level, there must be a few fears in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty stubborn in the fact that I'll work hard until I get like what I want or whatever. But I'm also a realist, and I grew up in a very supportive family, and my dad was very encouraging towards doing well at school because although he supported me and my mum, like my mum and dad supported me massively in taking me to training, games, everything else. He wanted it for me, but at the same time, he understood how lucky I had to be to get into the game, especially as I didn't go through any kind of academy system to kind of get my foot in the door. So he was um, very encouraging, obviously, through education. So the fact that I was going to then go to university, I kind of already prepared myself that I was going to be moving away from the family. So kind of moving away, that didn't that didn't really affect me too much. I was kind of mentally prepared for it anyway, albeit in a certain, like in a different
Yeah.
in different environment. But yeah, to start with, I found it really difficult going into a professional football changing room. There was a lot of kind of senior pros in the dressing room at the time, all very close, obviously, to one another. And I hadn't had any experience of the professional game in any capacity before that, so it was just I felt like a bit like a rabbit in the headlights for probably a good few weeks, if not a couple of months when I first went up there. Obviously, the adjustment of moving away, moving into full-time football, obviously going into work every day, adapting to just like the demands of the professional game every day. Obviously, I didn't make my debut until like around Christmas, but just being in that environment, it was a big adjustment and one that uh, it did take me a little while to get used to.
Yeah, of course. And was there any kind of people in the changing room that then had that influence on you to kind of, realize where you were and the level you were at?
Yeah, so when I signed for Hartlepool, there'd always been, not always, but in previous years before that, they'd signed a couple of like marquee signings. So every year there was kind of like a big name coming through the door. So I shared a dressing room with Nobby Solano when I was like when I was like 18 or whatever it was. Um, Stevie Howard, big centre forward, had a great career. Marlon Harewood came in just as I was kind of on my way out. Yeah, so there was always kind of like these big presences in the dressing room. There was a guy called Richie Humphreys who was a Hartlepool legend when I was there. He played hundreds of games for the club. He'd had a fantastic career himself in the game. So there was some really senior pros in there that I could lean on and learn from, especially. But yeah, obviously the bigger names with what they'd done in the game, especially the likes of Steve Howard, Nobby Solano, Marlon Harewood. It was like that was kind of my first taste of like, yeah, this is football.
Yeah, so that's what it brings me on to a kind of relevant question. I was going to ask, obviously, as you said, you didn't come through an academy. You felt and knew that there would probably need to be a little bit of luck along the way. Was there a point in which you realized you had made it as a footballer? You know, this was going to be your career.
Um, yeah, so obviously the first contract at Hartlepool was like obviously a massive like achievement for me. Um, like just being able to pick up like go into work, pick up your boots, put your boots on, play football, and get paid for it. Like that was amazing. Like it was obviously everything that you'd wanted as a kid. And the fact that I managed to obviously get into the team, make my debut, play, I don't know, nearly probably close, probably not quite 100, but probably like 90 odd game. I'm not quite sure how many ended up playing, but at a professional level was huge for me, and I absolutely loved my time at Hartlepool. And then I got my move to Peterborough, and that was probably the moment where I thought, like, this is it now. This is your career. Like, this is going to be your career moving forwards. I think Peterborough paid a small fee for me, and yeah, 2 years ago I was on the brink of going to university, and then I just got a deadline day move to Peterborough, who were the league above at the time because we ended up getting relegated at Hartlepool um, on like a longer contract, and it was just like, yeah, like this is the moment. So yeah, I'd say that obviously those two, for different reasons. Obviously, getting into the game was one thing, having a great time at Hartlepool, but then getting that first move where somebody's paid a fee for you is like that was probably the moment, I'd say.
Yeah, of course. And then from Peterborough, you obviously go to Salford, and Sunderland as well, and then to Bristol Rovers before you make a move north of the border to Ross County. I was just wondering if you could tell me how that move kind of materialized and what kind of made you go, yeah, I want to go to Dingwall to Ross County?
Yeah, so I'd spoken to the gaffer Malky Mackay at the time. Don Cowie was on the call as well, and Dale Pride McDonald, the club's media officer at the time as well, and operations and stuff. And we had a Zoom meeting um, probably about 3 or 4 weeks before I actually signed. And speaking to everybody, and everyone was outlining his plans. He said, obviously, we've got a club captain up here at the moment, but like that's the role I eventually see you stepping into, and um, what they wanted to do at the club, how they wanted to take the club forward. And it was a fantastic meeting. Like three top guys, really enjoyed speaking to all of them. And then I came off, and then I sat down with like the wife, and we spoke about it. Obviously, looked at it on the map, and it was like we've moved around a lot with football. Like you say, we've lived in the northeast, the northwest, the southwest. Um, but this just kind of felt like it was like a whole nother level. Um, but at the time, I just done a season at Bristol Rovers. Um, we'd had three managers that season and got relegated, so that was a really tough year. The season before, I was at Salford on loan from Sunderland. I kind of picked up a couple of injuries, only played probably 10 to 15 games max that season. And obviously, the season before I was at Sunderland, um, only spent a year there, played majority of the season, which I was really, really proud of at the time. We lost in the playoff final, and we lost the Checkatrade Trophy final on penalties as well. So those kind of 3 years, Sunderland was like a massive move for me. Ended up playing a lot of games, but then losing in the final, and then I kind of getting dropped towards the end of the season, not getting back in. I then went on loan, got injured, didn't really play much. Moved to Bristol, three managers, a relegation, and I just really like was like falling out of love with the game. Like I just like not that I was contemplating retirement because that never really crossed my mind, but I didn't really know what I was going to do next. I didn't know where I was going to go, who I was going to play for, and where I was going to find that enjoyment again. So obviously, then I had the call. Um, Me and the wife discuss it, kind of decide, oh, it's probably not for us. Like, it's probably that little bit too far. And then a couple of weeks later, it something just clicked, and I thought, you know what? Like I've not enjoyed the last three years. It's a proper grind. Like it's a fresh start, a new environment, new people, and yeah, for whatever reason, we just decided to go for it, and I'm really glad that we did because I yeah absolutely loved my time in Scotland. Thoroughly enjoyed it, um, and working at Ross County was a real yeah a real privilege, and yeah like I say, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you how that kind of how that differs from your other clubs, and what were your first thoughts of the club once you actually got here, got to Dingwall, and what kind of just your thoughts on Dingwall as well, whereas because it's a very remote situation.
Yeah, so when I flew up, I got picked up from the airport and obviously drove across to the ground. Obviously, had to go across the bridge and through obviously the countryside roads and stuff. But it was a glorious day, and it was sunny. It was absolutely amazing. Obviously, landed the journey from the airport to Inverness across over to Dingwall was just it was so picturesque. And I was sending pictures to my wife and saying, "Oh, this is amazing up here. Like, it's beautiful. What a lovely part of the country." Obviously, the club itself, not the biggest club, not the biggest stadium, but everybody at that club understand that they've got something different to everybody else. Like, it is such a tight-knit club. Um, Everybody's like working so hard to at the time to keep the club where where they wanted to be. And yeah, not masses of staff, like one one groundsman at the time that done an absolutely fantastic job. Like Fiona, the secretary, just papers and running around like getting everything sorted. Um, Obviously, like as mentioned before, Dell in media, and then the coaching staff, and then only like a couple of boardroom staff that the club obviously needed. So it's such a tight-knit group, such a family feel about the whole club, and that really like was really nice to go into. Everyone was so welcoming, especially like I say off of a previous like um, not enjoyable 3 years to go into somewhere where you feel wanted and you're part of like this family. It was really nice, and like I said many times before, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course. And you mentioned about becoming captain, and I didn't realize that it was actually mentioned, to yourself when you were first kind of on your way to Dingwall, or they were trying to get you to come to Dingwall. But what was that like? Kind of putting the armband on. Was that quite a special feeling, especially when you say it's such a tight knit club?
Yeah, yeah, and obviously putting being able to wear the armband at any club is a massive honour and a great privilege. So yeah, it's one that I don't take it for granted. It's one that um, obviously the manager, coaching staff see something within me that they felt they could then put that trust into me to lead the team and the club in a certain way. So, but yeah, like I don't really know what to say about it because like yeah, I just felt like so privileged to be able to, especially the first season. Obviously Keithy was still there. Keith Watson was obviously the captain, and if he wasn't playing, then I'd step in and whatnot. But yeah, it was just a yeah an honour and a privilege to be able to lead the club. To be honest.
Yeah, of course. And what was it like playing under Malky Mackay and subsequent managers afterwards as well? But what was that like playing under Malky Mackay? Because I believe that your first season there was pretty successful for County.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, obviously the gaffer was great to work with. Very for me personally, I can't speak for obviously other lads because not not everyone has the same experience at football clubs. But for me, I found him very good, um, like kind of managing his players, knowing when to kind of turn the dial and demanding what he needs, but knowing when to kind of have a laugh, have a joke, kind of like put his arm around you and have that kind of that softer chat with you if needed. So yeah, I always put the gaffer up there as kind of one of like my favourite managers to have worked under in my career so far. And yeah, like you say, it was a fairly successful season, finishing in the top six in my first year of being in Scottish football, and I think only potentially the second or third time maybe in the club's history. So to be a part of that group and something that special was amazing. Obviously, we was a bit disappointed, a little bit gutted that we didn't quite get the kind of European qualification spots because it was well within our reach. So that was the only downside to that season. But on the whole, yeah, it was a really enjoyable and um, yeah, successful season in that regard.
Yeah, I was just going to ask as well, not so much about that season, but in general, there were quite a few highs and lows in your time in Dingwall. One of which is being part of history, beating Rangers for the first time. A little bit of a kind of bittersweet moment for yourself, maybe in the game, as you put them ahead with an own goal. But how did that feel? And also, was the dressing room aware of that kind of record prior to the game?
Um, it's not something that we'd spoke about and say like, oh, if we get a win today, it'll be like whatever. Um, Obviously, you know that when you're playing Celtic Rangers, like the odds are stacked against you, and but you always feel that when the teams came up to us, that if we was going to get a result anywhere, it would be at home. And obviously, we run I think we ran Celtic close a couple of times at home, obviously conceding quite late goals to either draw or lose the games and stuff. But yeah, that was a great day to be part of. Like you say, obviously scoring an own goal was it's not the first time I've scored scored an own goal. But yeah, obviously live on TV is not obviously particularly nice. But yeah, it's just one of those things in football. It comes with territory, I suppose, being a defender, big gangly defender that can't sort his feet out. uh, but yeah, it was a great day. Like for the size of the club, the budget, everything else, the fan base, like we should never beat Rangers, but it that's the joy of football, I suppose. That's why everybody loves the game, is that these days can happen, and for the club, for the players like us that played in it, it was one that you'll remember for a long time.
Yeah, of course. I was just going to ask again, as I said, that's probably maybe one of the highs, but were there any particular lows for yourself in Dingwall at Ross County, and how did you get around those as well, especially with it being such a remote area and moving away from probably the majority of your extended family and your closer family. How do you get over that? How does that impact personal life in the lower times in football?
Yeah, so obviously, again, not the first time in my career, but I was sent off a couple of times. Obviously, those were quite low points because I think they obviously would have then gone on to influence the results and wins, especially, but points in general hard to come by, hard to come by in the league season. So yeah, obviously those times probably picked up a couple of niggles here and there as well, like injury wise. I've had a I had a massive knee surgery when I was younger that kind of flared up quite a bit when I was in Scotland, so I'd miss like a week here and there with my knee kind of flaring up. Um, and then just obviously dips in performance, not being able to pick up the results that we wanted or needed at the time. Obviously, all contribute to kind of those low points. And for the first year of being in Scotland, the first season, sorry, I actually moved away from the wife and kids, so they stayed in our family home here in Essex, and I kind of moved up, stayed with one of the boys for the first few months, and then flew back like when we had international breaks, and the kids came up with my wife when they had school holidays. So it was probably about 5 or 6 weeks at a time where we'd kind of live apart and then we'd get together for a long weekend or like the half terms. Um, so that was obviously difficult as well, obviously dealing with the on pitch stuff and not having your normal support network that you used to as well with the kids, because obviously being a dad, you come home from work, from football, and like you got no time to think about to think about what's gone on. You're running about after the kids or whatever. So um, it was nice then the next 2 seasons after that that everybody moved up, and well, wife and kids moved up, and we had our kind of little bubble back. So yeah, obviously we get wrapped up in football as the be all and end all, but kind of living away from the family for that period kind of made me realise that obviously like really lucky to have what I have with them. So the kind of on pitch stuff, not that it doesn't matter because it does, and obviously football clubs are businesses, people's livelihoods are on the line. Obviously for us as players as well, we're playing for contracts and whatever else. So I do get that it's a serious game, but then there are some things that now getting that bit older for me, it's like just puts into perspective a little bit. So so yeah, that's a bit of a long-winded answer to a short
No,
question.
it's fair enough. It's what you're after sometimes. It's something that we hear a lot in Scotland, especially from people south of the border, is the physical side of the game takes over a lot of the time, and that it kind of takes away from the quality, maybe. I was just wondering, as a defender and as somebody who has spent a lot of time in different leagues in England, how that kind of physical side of the game in Scotland compares, and maybe especially having played with quite skillful players, how that kind of how they have to adapt. The likes of Regan Charles Cook and Joseph Hungbo, who were quite successful in Dingwall.
Yeah, yeah, two great lads, two very talented lads as well. Yeah, I think the physical side of the game is obviously for me as a defender is a big part. You come up against some equally physical strikers, but then you've got strikers that are technically gifted, very skilled, smaller, more agile, like other teams do. So um, like I wouldn't I wouldn't say like, oh, the Scottish League is like everyone's beating you up all the time, this and the other. Like it's not. It obviously VAR up in Scotland as well kind of takes away from like the kind of the dark arts that you might get away with down in the lower English leagues potentially. But yeah, on the whole, it's obviously because you've got such a wide from what the top Celtic Rangers, obviously this year Hearts obviously right up there as well. You've got like those clubs, and then you've got like other clubs like ourselves, Ross County, maybe the Livies, the St Johnstones, that kind of probably have to try and mix it a little bit more than being able to just turn up and just play complete football. So you've kind of got that wide range of level of game, like the physical, the technical, and it is such a unique mix of it all. Because people always ask me like, how does it compare? Like, what league is it like in England? Like, and I say it's not like one league in England. You've got probably a combination of the top to the bottom in England, all in one league. So yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic, and this one that once I got used to the format of the league and obviously playing everybody more than you used to in England, it's one that I really enjoyed.
Just one final question before I go into some quick fire questions then. Obviously as a captain, and just as a leader in the dressing room anyways, it must take a fair bit of mental strength to kind of, pick up a group or even after a high. I was just wondering what you kind of had to say on the mental strength it takes to be a football player, because there are, as you say, so many livelihoods relying on it, and also so many people's weekends relying on it. And what the topic of mental health is like in the dressing room as well, because it's obviously a big thing, but I don't know what it's like behind the scenes, or if in the dressing room it's maybe passed over more than it should be.
Yeah, I think it's still yeah, the conversations behind mental health obviously have increased, and I think that it's going in the right direction. I do still think there's a lot of work to do regarding the us us men talking about our problems, maybe with a friend or a professional, whatever it might be. Within the dressing room, it's probably not spoken about really as much still. You might have one or two lads that you're probably closer to than others that might go grab a coffee with after training, and naturally you might start opening up about any problems or whatever you may be experiencing. Because I know that when when I was up in Scotland, a few of the lads had like coffee club on a Tuesday or a Thursday, where after training, probably five or six of them would go and just sit in one of the local coffee shops, have a coffee, just have a little chat about whatever it might be. So in those kind of settings, you probably feel like you've got that support network and stuff. But for other lads that probably coming in from further afield may feel a bit isolated and stuff. So the mental resilience that is required, especially to move away from home and then try and try and perfect your craft at the same time is a skill in itself, and it it does have its challenges. Obviously, people from the outside look in and think, oh, you're playing football for a living, you're getting paid loads of money, whatever it might be, and think like you've got it all figured out. Like it's definitely not the case. Everyone still had bad days for sure. Um, like just putting it out there, or being quite vulnerable with myself. I've got a picture on my phone from when I was living away um, from the family, where things, I can't remember the scenarios, but things weren't going great, and I was living in this house by myself because I'd moved out from the house with one of the other boys, and I was just in this space by myself. It was quiet, there was nothing there, and yeah, I just got really emotional and I actually started crying, and I took a picture to like remind myself like further down the line that how lucky that, like I mentioned before, things get a little bit deeper and you start to place value on things differently. But yeah, like it has been, my whole career has been a tough, well, mentally tough ride, injuries, loss of form, fans telling you you're crap every weekend. Obviously now with social media, you get that directly to your phone. I remember like I think we played Celtic once and I chipped my tooth, and um, like I put a picture up of like the game or something, and like I had loads of people like bombard me with abuse and stuff, saying like this about you, that about you, and it comes with unfortunately it comes with modern day society. But yeah, I don't really know. I've rambled on a little bit. It takes a lot of mental strength. It takes a lot of resilience being in the game for sure. And for like people like myself, I just class myself as like just a normal guy. Like it's everybody in football are just normal people. Some are obviously a little bit more superhuman than others, but for me, it's just like if I bump into you in the street and you wanted to have a chat, I'll have a chat. Like I'm not like perception that footballers get, whatever it might be, like stuck up, got no time for you, this, that, the other, only in it for themselves. Like for the last 3 or 4 years, I've won a community award for every club that I've been at. Like I've just where for the work that I do in the community and stuff. And yeah, that's just me as a person. And we have we have feelings, we have emotions, same as everybody else. I get that it's people's place to vent and stuff at a weekend when when maybe they've had a bad day, a bad week at work. But yeah, we are just on the other side of it, and we've got our own families, our own problems to deal with. But yeah, it takes a lot of mental mental strength and mental
No,
courage.
I really appreciate that. That's a really honest answer, and yeah, thank you for sharing that with me. I've got a few quick fire questions just to end it here. The first one I was just
I'll
gonna
try my
ask was
best. As as you probably figured out, I've got no quick answers.
my first one I was gonna ask was if you have a favorite game you've played in your career.
Oh, yeah. To be honest, it'd probably have to be the Partick playoff game. Um, Obviously, not nice being down that end of the table and being 3-0 down with 20 minutes to go over the two legs is not a good place to be. But yeah, that was just something special that day. That was amazing.
Favorite and least favorite away days in Scotland.
Least favorite would probably have to be like on a regular basis was probably Livy, just because of the Astro didn't like agree with like my body too much. And favorite, um, quite like Hearts. Hearts was good. Obviously, we didn't really get too many results up there, but yeah, like I did enjoy it. I didn't want to give the Celtic Rangers one, but the next one would probably be Hearts. Yeah.
The hardest player you played against in Scotland.
Um, Physically, it's probably like one of my mates, Kyle Vassell. Played with Vass at Peterborough, and we had a couple of good tussles when he was at Kilmarnock. So yeah, physically toughest probably. I'd say Kyle. Yeah.
And just finally, a question that we like to ask everyone on here: your favorite pizza?
Um, Meat Feast.
Meat feast. Perfect. Thank you very much for joining me, Jack. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and yeah, all the best with the rest of your career and rest of the season at Eastleigh.
Really appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.